Like I think they might regret not doing that, even if they had to give up something significant. I hope not, but I think they might.
I don't watch it close enough, but Tom, what do you think about the Flames' needs?
Well, I think they got Stone as a right D, and then that American kid in the farm team. Geez, what's his name? He played for the USA in the Olympics. He's a college. He's a good D. He should be in the NHL.
What about
I don't know if they want to give up a lot to bring in a guy.
Yeah. Anybody know what's up with Valimaki?
Well, Jim says that he's not. Jim follows this stuff a lot, and he said he's not doing that great.
Okay.
Mackey's the guy I was thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think they have confidence in him. But it's always good if you can get something, but you don't want to give up too much either.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta go. They did a great job. Like really, they're really solid up front now. They got a goalie having a career year, and I still think from any of the games I've seen, you know, as much as Shillington's come along really well, you know, they might regret not having another solid, experienced guy, even with Stone sort of, you know, waiting as a seventh guy right now. As they always say, you can never have too many defensemen at playoff time. And even if they had to rent a guy like Sherratt and not even bother re-signing him, anyway, just my thoughts from looking in, and I don't see them as much as Tom does, of course. But.
Hal, I got a question. You're coaching high school hockey, correct? Female?
Correct, yeah.
Now, do you follow the North Stars at all? Like
That would be the Wild, Wally.
the Wild, sorry.
Yes.
I've dated myself, of course.
Lou Nanny isn't playing anymore.
Yeah.
But he thinks he is.
I think he's coming. He's making a comeback, though. I think he's thinking.
He just gets confused on the way to the rink. He's not sure where it is anymore. Yeah, the Wild made a bunch of trades, and I don't know. I don't think they're a top. You know, they can't beat Calgary. Calgary just pounds the shit out of them physically. So they added a couple big guys at the trade deadline. So it'll be interesting to see. They're fun to watch. They have some guys. They are really creative. Then that Russian kid Kaprizov is he's a superstar. So yeah, it's fun. It's we're in Minnesota. Our pro teams were the long suffering fans for all of them for sure. Yeah. The Wild has given us hope, but they're not there yet. But they brought Andre Fleury in from Chicago. Interesting, they played Chicago on Saturday and then bought him on Monday and brought him in. But he hasn't played yet. He's just trying to get acclimated. They've got some good young players, though. I'm excited. That Baldy kid who played for Boston College, I think, last year. And he was on the minor league team. He brought him up in camp. He got hurt. So he had to recover. He recovered, played a game or two, and he got sick. I think he got COVID. So he was out. But since he's gotten in the lineup, he's one of their top forwards. And he's the American version of Kaprizov. He plays like him. He's got a big motor. He competes like crazy, and he's got great skills. So it's interesting while you brought up high school girls. So I was coaching a JV high school team, but I didn't actually really get to coach the team. I only got 8 of them at practice, and the other 7 skated with the varsity, and it was kind of a shit show. And so I'm moving on. There are at least five high school programs here in the western suburbs that all their coaches are gone, their female coaches, or for the female teams, which is really highly unusual that many job openings are open at one time. And there's several boys' jobs open too. And I go through and look at the bigger programs. We have two classifications. We have AA and single A, and it's typically based on the size of your school, the enrollment of your school. And even some of the AA coaches are gone. And I go through and look at the players, and you can't tell how much ice time they're getting, but you can look at their points and how many games each kid has played. And it looks to me like even at the AA, they're playing 2 lines, not 3, pretty consistently. And my guess is that there's a lot of unhappy kids and parents on those rosters. And I was told a couple days ago that the Andover, Minnesota, which is up in the northern suburbs, they won the state boys and girls championship AA school. And I have a book coming out in about a month, not on hockey. I already did a hockey book once a long time ago. And my editor lives up in Andover. He says all the parents of the younger girls are all looking to get out of that program because the high school coach is so hard on them that they all hate it. They can't even stand going to the rink, but they win, right? So I don't know. There's a real balance between girls and boys, although boys want to have fun too, but winning means fun for boys. Girls want to win. They want to have fun and win. It's sort of the other way around from boys. So we'll see. I'll probably get another high school job, but that won't happen until after spring break, which apparently goes on for the whole month of March here.
Yeah.
Kim, what's
probably
your
have to-
line on winning in girls and guys? You have a nice line.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Hal hasn't heard that one, I don't think, but I don't know who coined it, but it goes, guys have to win in order to have fun, and girls have to have fun in order to win.
Right.
And it's very, very true.
And I coached a U15 team the season before, and I had a meeting with the parents, and they said, "Why? What do you like about coaching the girls?" I said, "Because they just crack me up. They're funny, they're engaging on the ice, they smile, they laugh, they play with a lot of joy. If you allow them to play with joy, and when you do, they play really well."
Yeah.
And I picked up some stuff here just on the Sharks deal about from Kim. I loved her deal. I think, was it Kim that said defend the blue line?
Yeah.
Defend the blue line. So I'm going to try that with a U17 high performance team that I'm going to be coaching here next month. And I just want to see what they do with it. I think it'll be, because it doesn't matter if we win the tournament or not, because it's, that's just high performance. The players are getting evaluated individually. And we'll set it up with, with some things before I drop it on them. And they just, we'll see what they do. It's going to be kind of an interesting experiment. And I think Kim talked about it when she had to take over a team for a game or two at a tournament. So.
I was going to have Daryl Belfry come on, and I don't know if anybody's had a chance to check what Daryl and I have been talking about, but I've been posting stuff and sending it out because to me, it's really significant. And now, particularly at your level, Daryl's explained what he was doing with his daughter Ella when she was 3 to 5 years old, and really learned to play stage. He could skate a little bit, but he didn't allow her to cross over at all. And when he'd explained it to me, it really made sense. And he had difficulty with it. And he didn't just pull it out of a hat. He researched NHL
He had
team
crossover.
tracked the forward lines in terms of the first, second, third, fourth, and kept track of the crossover ratio to the stride ratio. The fourth lines he discovered were 1 to 16, 1 crossover, 16 strides. Third lines were 1 to 8. Second lines were 1 to 3. First lines were 1 to 1. Now he actually had fractions behind those numbers, but it completely made him think about the crossover. So Al, what I'm throwing at you, and I'm glad Kim's joined on, it's perfect timing, Kim. I talked to Kim about it yesterday because all my life, Al, I've been doing hockey schools, and even in Hockey Canada, they lay out the skills and there's sort of a sequence. And in terms of skating, once they can fall and get up, you want them to move, I think at least not necessarily skate, but be able to move forward. And I've always taught forward stride first. Then I've always taught turning, which means the turning of the head. And when you turn, you got to get that inside edge of the inside leg. And I would turn until you stopped and then make snow with that outside edge. That was the way I taught it. And I just continued working on forward striding, but discovered what Daryl did in terms of focusing on crossovers. He said the reason he doesn't believe in the forward stride being that critical in the game anymore, the kids master their outside edges, which means they master all 4 edges and they actually stride better. So I called Seymour, Dean Seymour at Hockey Canada. He's on sort of the development committee, and I shared the theory of when you teach stuff, and we sort of pay attention to crossovers. But Daryl, at that time, he was 25, and he used the term linear crossovers.
Yep,
So if you watch an NHL game,
it's all over the place.
that ratio is the case. And I've always been fixated on the forward stride and glide, and
Yep.
to the point of being anal about it. But now I would change my approach. So, and Kim and I had a good talk about it yesterday. So, Al, I'm curious about it. Have you given any thought to that?
You're on mute, Al.
Is your mic off, Al?
Al, yeah, your mic's off, Al, unless you can't hear.
Well, he's getting organized. We started using that linear crossover stuff this year because I think it's then easier to teach the kids to not just go straight at a defenseman. And you give them a reason why you can show that the defenseman has to constantly readjust because you're going left, you're going right, you're going left, and you're striding. And it makes it a lot harder, for defensemen to play against a skater that's doing that linear crossover stuff. We started using it last year, and I'm doing evaluations right now, high performance 14s and 15-year-olds. Oh my gosh, 90% of them can't skate worth a damn. And these are the best kids that we've got in our district, not at the state level. But it's interesting. I've always been, as a high school coach, been amazed at how kids get to 16 or 17 and have such poor skating skills after playing hockey for 10 or 11 years.
Well, Al, before
I think my mic is on there now.
Okay, go ahead.
You're live, Al.
I'm live. Yeah, there's just a big lag. I think that's my laptop. But so we do focus a lot on the crossovers with the kids from a fairly young age. I would say we come at it from both directions. So within our association, we've got 2 skill partners with 2 really different approaches to skating. So one guy we use is he's a Laura Stam system certified instructor, right? He's really good. travels all over the country, but his focus is on stride development, kind of like what you're talking about, Wally, and it's very similar to the way that I was taught, going back to Andrews. Like it's really similar actually. So I've been, I haven't had time the last 2 years here, but I used to jump on with them for those sessions, and it was very, very similar to what we used to do. And then we've also partnered with Power Edge Pro. So myself and some of the other guys, when we do the Power Edge Pro sessions, those are really focused on crossovers, as well, like open hip, turns, things like that. So there's a lot of, it's more of that new style skating stuff that you're talking about. Very big emphasis on the linear crossover. And then we've carried that through in practice now. Once the kids got a little bit of the base under them, they go to that lower stam certified guy on Sundays. And then with our team practices, we focus more on the crossovers and edge work side of it. So I do see it in the games. Like when I look at the kids that really have done a lot of that program starting when they were pretty young, like my son is one of them. When he gets the puck, like he never skates in a straight line, or very rarely. He's crossing over and he's going different directions, and he's very shifty. Now, I will say that if he goes to one of those power skating sessions on Sunday nights, I'll see it and I can tell in the game, the next game that we play. Like the other day, they were doing something about pushing the puck ahead with one hand and, taking long strides. And I had literally never seen him do that before, ever, because I've deliberately kept him away from doing that because he can handle the puck with his head up, from the time he was about 7. So I saw that come out the other day. Normally he's crossing over and handling the puck, and I kind of made a mental note to make sure that we get that taken out of our skating curriculum. But I definitely see it. Like when I look at the kids that have gone through that program, they skate differently than the kids who are even playing a higher level right now that skate very north-south. And I wonder what's going to happen. Like as they get into Pee-wee, some of these kids that are maybe a little bit smaller have spent a little bit more time working on things like their crossovers and tight space work, how they're going to be able to compete against some of those kids who right now are the better players, because I think they're going to pass them very quickly.
Kim?
Yeah, Wally, just to follow up, because I kind of cut our discussion off there yesterday because Barb and I were heading out for a walk. Wally and I were talking about this yesterday, and I definitely agree that there's some tremendous value in learning the linear crossover. And I definitely agree as well that it's probably been neglected sort of in a teaching progression of skating. But I would stop short for sure of saying to somebody, don't ever forward stride, because the forward stride is a speed thing, mainly without the puck. Like if you could do, easily do a study. So start on the goal line, Wally, you're gonna linear crossover all the way to the red line, and Al, you're gonna forward stride all the way to the red line. And if the players are kind of equal skaters generally, the forward stride person is going to get there first. It's a speed thing. It's a without the puck thing. It's not, with the linear crossover is much more useful infinitely more useful in a deceptive mode when you've got the puck and you're attacking a D, like Hal was saying. And so they're two different skills. They're both having a good application in the game. So as I always come back to, learn both, and then you can deploy them when you feel you need or want to during the game. So it's like everything. It's not an absolute, never do this, always do that. It's, learn all the skills you can learn, and then you're the best workman. You've got all the tools. You can do anything.
Now, I agree and disagree because my point isn't all or none. Obviously, I've been a stride guy first to the point of being wrong. In all my scouting of female athletes for the national team, like Hal said, they can't skate. They pound the ice. They master inside edges, but they pound the ice. They don't push to the side. They don't get the skate under the center of gravity to create force. So biomechanically, the crossover forces you to go past the center of gravity and master that outside edge. And it leads to better striding. So, Kim, you've got your hand up. I'm just saying that I would start focusing 80% of the time on if you're doing skating with a puck, particularly crossing over with the puck. But to do that, you can practice without a puck, doing linear crossovers, 2 one way, 1 one way, the other way, but you just vary the numbers. But Kim, we had a good talk about this yesterday, and I'm not going to work with kids anymore, but I'm working with coaches, and I would advocate do more crossovers. They want their kids to skate better, do more crossovers, particularly with the puck, because the game really, the only time it's really useful is in back check. But very rarely will you get a breakaway stride. You do. So the percentage of time the game is played within 15 feet, it just far exceeds that. So the top line players on Daryl's research are skating that way. I don't know if they would win races to the far blue, but they win them all in the O zone with the puck, and without it, they get to it. So, Kim, go ahead. I'm going to let you take over because we talked at length about this, and you've got different ways of teaching it. But you know what? You've watched Daryl's recent videos and understand the concept of his approach, and it's almost a shocking thing to do. It is. It's outside the comfort zone of what we've always done. So go ahead, Kim.
Thanks, Wally. Yeah, I think I would agree with you that it's an important thing to teach. It's something I teach at every camp I do. I think it's the outside edge work is the real value in it, especially for the younger players, I think. So like you said, there's that mastery of the inside edge. So when Molly and I were talking about yesterday, we were talking about tight turns. And I find tight turns maddening because most girls I work with just turn with the outside foot inside edge. Like they might as well just lift up their inside foot. Like it serves no purpose. And so, if you're a skills person, you've seen the evolution of like a jab step or a punch turn or whatever. And it's interesting to me because I just think, well, that's a tight turn. Like you're just using the outside edge a little more or a little less, depending on whether you want to jab it or punch it or whatever kind of vernacular you want to use. But, I think it's fundamentals versus skills that separate. And I think that for me, most of the players I work with who aren't sort of learned to skaters are fine at forward stride. Can we make it better? Sure. Can we make them infinitely better and separate them from the competition by teaching them linear crossovers? Absolutely. And it is immediately apparent in games when they're able to do it. And I see an instant transfer. I have sort of like a 50-minute progression I take players with or through. And I wanted to see if I could share my screen. You guys can let me know if it doesn't work. We'll see if it does or not. I'm going to share something from Instagram, which I'm sure is not like, I don't know. Can you guys see?
Yes.
Okay. So this player, this is from last.
Can you make it bigger, Kim?
I probably can if I was smart enough. I only went to Dartmouth, so I'm not sure.
Well, I went to Wadena High
I'm
School.
glad you said it, Kim.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Maybe Sammy can help us. She's smarter than all of us. I don't know if I can make it better, Wally, but can you guys see it?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a junior player. I would say she is a below average skater or was a below average skater. So this would be a pretty high level progression. This would be sort of like the end of the hour. Whatever she's doing around the circle, don't worry about it. So she's crossing over and through. We can debate the use of the sticks. It mostly scares the girls, so it makes me happy that they have to do something outside their comfort zone. So I just want to use this as an example. So this is her having done it probably 4 or 5 times over the summer. I'll show you another player. This would be, she's U13 AA. She'd be probably top 3 in her age group in the province. So you can see she's a lot smoother at it.
Can I make a point looking at the picture?
Yeah.
And I think it's an important point related to how you teach it. That second girl, I can't tell because I don't see the side view. You drive your shoulders forward when you cross over.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes that center of gravity in the direction you want to go. The first girl, obviously, she didn't turn her shoulders as she crossed over and under. And that's a significant biomechanical part of teaching linear crossovers. I just wanted to share it because I did it with the pros in the conditioning camp years ago. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think
Kim,
it's
hey Kim, sorry, maybe close your chat window. It might make the video bigger because we can see your chat window.
okay. Well, I tried to do that, but we'll see. Anyways,
It's because she's on Instagram. You can see her chat window. That
okay.
just is Instagram. No.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Engineer. Thank you.
thanks, Sammy. I know I tried to pull all these clips this morning, but you know, motherhood. So yeah, this player is an elite skater, like she is and has been a long time, right? So, and the other player is, like I said, like below average, or she was below average. I wanted to show just a contrast. Here's the same player, and she still needs to turn her shoulders, but you can see how much that outside edge work has improved. That's the same player who was doing it in the first clip. So just her ability to land on that edge and get those feet moving. It's the exact same drill. But it's, you know, and I had a clip actually of this same player doing it in a junior game against Durham, who's probably top 3 in the province. And she like breaks the girl's ankles, crosses one way, goes the other way, and the girl falls over and like rolls down the ice. So like I said, this is a player who, you know, even before this clip, like you might not have taken her on a junior team because she was such a weak skater. And now I'm watching her in junior games, like manipulating skaters and making, you know, some of the best D in the province fall over. And it's simply repetition of a skill. And I think if she can do it at that level, then we can probably all do it a little bit better at a younger level. But it's interesting. It's the outside edge that really is the separator. I mean, if you really look at it, if you can't manipulate your outside edge, you can't do a linear crossover, you can't tight turn properly, you can't stop properly or quickly. So I think that's, you know, how you emphasize that is the real kicker in every skill, every skating skill you're doing. You know, I think that doesn't get emphasized enough, and it's too much of the inside edge emphasis. So I wonder if that like could just simplify it even more than linear crossovers per se, or, you know, jab steps or whatever terms people want to use.
Go ahead, Hal.
Yeah, you know, we to help our kids learn that outside edge, get them comfortable on it. We use a drill called Russian chops. So they're skating backwards and they raise up their leg and come across, set it down. So you can do it like this, because they have to come down on their outside edge, and eventually we get them to where they're on their left leg, the right leg comes up shoulder height and then comes across, and they put it down. We started that this year with these are 13, 14-year-old girls. Most of them couldn't do it. And our exit interviews at the end of the season, they all commented about how great that was, because they got so much better at doing it over the course of the year. And so again, it's about, to your point, Kim, about getting them used to being on that outside edge and then transferring their weight and going somewhere else. And so and we then transferred it into the linear skating drills also. So I loved your videos. Those were great, Kim. That's good stuff.
Yeah, and Hal, I think I'm visualizing exactly what you're talking about, and it is a very useful, you know, skating drill to improve the outside edges. There's some great video on YouTube PK Subban doing that drill, but then he gets into, he calls it scissoring. And there's a great video of him doing it really, really short and quick. Like just his feet just going bing, 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 but at the same motion. So you go from the long, controlled outside edges to shorter, faster, to really quick, repetitive. It's a really good little progression.
I'll look that up. That's great. Great information.
Kim, go ahead.
You're muted, Kim. Yeah.
Sorry. Can you guys see the share?
Yeah.
This would be a progression.
Yeah, that's Daryl's. Yeah, Daryl's. Yeah, yeah.
That's where I start, but slowly. And then to your point, Hal,
Yeah.
if they can do that, and I make them take 3 seconds to bring their knee over the top. So it's 1, 2. So they're hanging out on that outside. And I've got 7-year-olds doing that.
Yeah.
I've got actually my 5-year-old doing that. Like if they can do that and have that level of control, then, you know, doing it while they're moving is actually easier in a lot of ways. So that's where we start. We start marching over the blue line onto the outside edge. And I haven't had a single kid who can't get it. Like they don't look majestic, right? But they can get it within minutes, right? And that's the foundation. And to your point, Hal, like I would start there with my junior and university players. And it's shocking how many of them can't do the 3-second hold.
Right.
Without falling over or losing their balance. But if I threw them in that drill that I did later on, that I was showing you with the kid who was, you know, improved her skating so much, they could probably do that drill, but they wouldn't be using their outside edge effectively.
Right.
So that, you know, that's a good start. And I like starting points that you could take anyone to, and it would be a challenge, right? And that you can, you know, like, so that even that elite kid, she's actually the one in the front of that video too. That's her again, the elite Pee Wee AAA kid or AA kid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you know, she can do.
Are they standing still, Kim?
Sorry, yes, they're standing still.
They're standing still. They're not moving forwards or backwards.
No, and I think it's better.
I
mean, you can have everyone doing it
at the same time.
At the same time, but it also like is more control, right? Especially 3-second hold while you're stationary on that outside edge. You can't use any other part of your body to balance is quite hard. So that's been a really successful starting point for us to use in that progression. And then it's pretty easy to take it anywhere from there.
Sure. That's awesome.
I think, go ahead, Al. If your hand's still up, or is it an old one?
Yeah, I was gonna try and share the screen here too as like a next step onto that one. But give me 1 second here to see if I can. I don't know if I can actually figure out how to do that. But I think there's a couple elements to it, right? Like there's the skating side of it, and obviously they're, you know, building that linear cross over the outside edge and all that kind of stuff. But you know, I think there's also, like, if you're doing that, you should be doing it with the puck, the puck on your stick, right? So the other side to that one is to really focus in on getting these kids from a really young age to be able to handle the puck with their head up. And there's so much right now, especially on, like, if you go on Instagram, which, you know, there's a lot of, sorry, there's some sharing stuff coming up. My computer has a big lag, but there's so much right now where people are looking, like, they got the kids looking down at the ice, right? They get pucks on the ice, they get, you know, stuff where they're trying to work on their hands, right? When really it's about being able to manipulate the puck with your head up and to be able to use those crossovers, you know, and obviously fakes and things like that. But that's where we kind of spend our time too. If we're not working on crossovers or that type of area, it's on what do you do with the kids so that it reinforces them to be able to move around with their head up with the puck. Now, Kim, would you agree with that, Kim, or do you, like, how do you kind of weave that together?
Let's show more drills. I didn't know this was a skill drill session. I'm excited. I would have prepared more. I have like at least 3,000 videos I could show you guys.
Oh, I wish I was a little better with my computer and the share thing here, because I got.
Let's see what we can do here. All right, so this would be a progression. Turn the volume off because I'm probably yelling at someone. So just to your point, head up. We would do this across the blue line with no puck first. And they'd pick up a puck at the far blue or the far side and go in and shoot. So again, pretty good skater here. You know, they're not going full speed yet, but the simple way to start it. Let's see if we can get, sorry, I might have to switch over here. Let's see if we can get this. So now you're adding token pressure. So there's that same kid from the summer. He's gotten a lot better at it. So it's not super smooth, right? So now she's trying to understand how she could use that crossover to manipulate the defender. And we would show them, right? Like when I demo it, I'm showing them how they're trying to get this defender to turn her feet or reach with her stick by using that move, right? So again, this is just kind of where we start before we would go over and through the sticks. And then eventually we would do it as a one-on-one where they're trying to use it with like stick flip, that sort of thing. So that's part of the full like hour-long progression that would come before the through the stick version. But we add this as soon as I've done the over this line walking, I immediately show them this where I'm this defender and I have one of my more experienced kids doing it, and I'm showing them how they can manipulate my positioning using that crossover. So that's how kind of we get it there to that point. And then again, for the more advanced kids, you know, you're doing the, you know, the half crossover where you fake one way, like the Barzal stuff. But again, only my junior, my university, or my really great skaters can do that. But you get a lot of bang from your buck just going, you know, getting to the drills I showed you earlier on.
Kim, I want to tell you how far you've taken this. It's just impressive. Back in our day, Tim, when Dave King created a deking progression, it was totally your linear skating. And it was great at the time, but that's the way we were brought up, teaching drive skating. You might fake inside and go right and drive skate.
That's the way the game was, linear.
But with the linear crossover now, Dave's progression, I think it's a good place to start, but it's the same thing as what you've done. You know, you basically attack a stationary coach and you deke outside of the range of the poke check, wide lateral move, and then accelerate after the deke. And he would do that slow and deliberately with the coach stick extended. And then they would go one-on-one with players half speed. And but all we were taught, and I was taught, was basically the forward stride with that fake, which meant an inside fake, drive off the inside edge and go wide outside and drive skate wide. So this really shows you, I think it's a perfect example, what you're doing there of taking the crossover, the linear crossover, incorporating it, as Hal said, into getting the defenseman to cross his feet and lose his gap, his horizontal gap. And boy, it really is the way the game is now. So thanks very much, Kim.
My pleasure, Wally. I'm going to share one more because I want to share an observation. You know, I used to say to all my players, you know, like this is a kind of Jesus move, right? It's Connor McDavid special. But now we have clips of the best women in the world doing it. So that's what we're showing now instead, because that's better for my audience. Let's see. I think I have Sarah Nurse here doing it. And it might be super slow. So I apologize, but you know, here we go. And she sure makes that player look bad on that linear crossover. Not the prettiest goal in the universe, but here it is. It's pretty good example to show for the girls, right? So this would be Like you can see here just the amount of crossing she's doing. And I'm going to guess Sarah and a lot of these players wouldn't have done this 3 years ago. They would not have used that skill. So it's nice now to be able to have the videos of the women doing it. And I did during the Olympics sort of make a mental note of how often that happened and how I don't think I saw it much at the last Olympics, if at all. So it's a cool progression to see, whereas, McDavid, Barzal, those guys have been doing it for a little bit longer. So it's neat to see the transfer over to our game.
Hal, did you have your hands up? Hal, I think, okay.
Are you talking to me? I guess I did. I can't remember what it was about, but those are great videos, Kim. That's really good stuff. And so I'll let it go at that. I can't remember what I was going to say. Sorry. I'll put my hand down again.
Okay.
About how to do it.
Daryl's going to come on down the road and sort of tell the story of why he did it. And I know, Tim, you don't like saying never, 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 but I think when it comes to backward skating, I never let them. I teach by never letting them cross over backwards. So, Kim, I don't know if you remember, but this was a national team drill we did with Dave King and the national team, playing one-on-ones, but learning to stride and gap control. And I think if everybody here could visualize it, it's something you could do, but with linear crossovers, it teaches the importance of striding only to change your lane vertically, as opposed to cross over to change your lane. But we would put the defenseman on the dot and the forward with their skates on the goal line on the boards. And it's a rush race. And the D could only cross over once each way, and they had to stride only as soon as possible. They had to play the rush striding. And they really had always crossed over, so they had a pretty good start from the crossover. But they had to learn to stride backwards, maintain the middle of the ice, and at least let the shot go from the middle of the ice. So the rule that Daryl gave his daughter growing up was, I only want you to cross over. It was because he's thinking of where she's going to be skating the game down the road. And I just look at her forward skating, and her edge work is pretty phenomenal. So, but that backward race, Tim, we started you guys as pros on the dot. And with the national team, we had to put people at the top of the circle because they couldn't skate backwards. But eventually, we did this drill weekly or a couple of times a week with the national team. The defender could stand on the bottom of the circle forward on the goal line, and they never got beat. So that sort of validated the importance of what you're doing, Kim, with the progressive teaching of those skills, forward skating with a puck. It's just amazing. Good job. Tim, go ahead.
Well, just to be clear, like I have absolutely no problem doing a drill like you've described, and you tell the players you're not allowed to cross over, whether it's you're working on your forward linear crossovers and you don't ever want them to stride. I have no problem doing an isolated drill like that to help learn the skill. But I think it's a real mistake to tell somebody going into a game, never do this, because that's not the game. There's all kinds of applications in the game for backwards crossovers. I don't disagree. And I fully agree that a backward stride is a really efficient way to play a one-on-one, but I would never tell anybody never cross over, because that's not the game. The game is more fluid than that. It's more read and react than that, and you can't always. Anyway, so just to be clear, like in a teaching,
you don't have to explain it, Kim. I understand. I'm not
explaining to you. I'm explaining to everybody listening, just to be
well, I
clear.
think we know that, and hell, I think you appreciate that. The deliberate practice is to master it, but in the game, you make decisions, and you have to cross over backwards at times. But when you do that more often than not in situations and get beat, it's a case of muscle memory and comfort with executing the skills that way. Kim, do you have anything else add on that?
Jordan's got his hand up, Wally.
Okay, Jordan, you're on the bus, Jordan?
You're muted too. Hey, there you go.
Yep. Yeah, Wally, I'm on the bus, so sorry if the background noise is starting to get too much. They're waking up now, getting ready for the first game. So
at least you're not under the bus, Jordan.
Yeah, that'll be on the way back if we don't pull this tournament out.
Meet you there.
Just going to talk about the progressions, Wally, that you were talking about, that race drill. I've used that several years, and always at the start of the year, the D hate being told that all that they can do is stride and starting at the dot piece. But usually midway through, they look forward to it because they're feeling more confident in being able to match. And near the end of the year, they challenge themselves to get down to the bottom of the circle, farther lower than the dot, and striding with them. But one of the things that I changed up this year with it, Wally, was actually with Daryl's surf angle pieces. And we've also added in a different race, which is having the forward start in the corner the same as the previous one, but having the D start up on the blue line. And the goal is to surf that forward off the puck by the tops of the circles. So you're denying zone exit. And it's been really good seeing the kids put a couple of different things into the repertoire in defending both blue lines in that surf angle, as well as the striding piece if players coming out with some speed. So, but I will mute myself and continue to listen here. We've got about 15-20 minutes to the ring.
Kim, go ahead.
I got more stuff. Wally, I think I have the drill you're talking about, or a version of it. So let's see what we got. Okay, this is 2 university players. Sorry, my screen share is not big. So the defender is a defenseman. Actually, she's a forward. She plays at Williams. She's a very good skater. This one plays at St. Thomas. I don't know about the crossed feet. She's a funny one. Anyways, they just wanted to challenge themselves, but we would manipulate the body position. And I would also have, the forward do the defense. I think that's a really important thing at younger ages. Actually, I do it all the way up in minor hockey. The forwards would do the defense part and the Ds would do the forward part. But I love what Jordan said, because I have a team where I don't let them skate backwards to defend. It's a U15B team, and they're so big and aggressive, and they're fast. And I just tell them to just angle and all we work on is angling. And they're not great backward skaters, but I just tell them not to ever backward skate, and they win a ton of hockey games that way. I was going to show one more of the linear crossovers because I found a little cute kid doing it. So it just gives you an idea here of manipulating. And I know Al shared some videos. I'm pretty sure this kid's 7. But it's the same kind of race. I had to put the defender pretty far back. You can see she's not as good of a skater. But that's pretty good. I mean, we lost the puck, so there's that. At least she fought back for it. That's pretty good for a girl. Most of them just roll over and die when that happens. They just go, oh, I lost the puck. The whole thing must be done now. But this is pretty, I would say, pretty decent. She's an A player, which is, I think, the highest they have at that age group. but pretty good use of it. And, you know, that would be a skill that, you know, she might have done a couple times before. So taking that same thing and just manipulating this distance. Obviously, if this player was a better skater, we might push her further down towards the edge of the circle here.
Kim, she's driving her shoulders forward really well.
Yeah, yeah, this one's she's done a lot of extra skill work. So yeah, just a way to combine the two skills together, right? So we start to see if you let that make that defender skate straight back with stride, then you can see how well those linear crossovers work. So often in a 3-hour camp, I would combine linear crossovers and backward skating in the same camp. First hour would be like backward skating, second hour would be linear crossovers, and then we play one-on-ones in the third hour. And we try to use both of those skills and see how effective we can be. So it's a bit of the art of it. And this has all really evolved for me, I would say, in the last like 2 years as I had more time now that I'm not bench coaching. So this is a product of that and not having to travel all over the province coaching a team anymore. So there you go.
The point I wanted to make on those clips, Tim, there's the drill, and they'll learn by trial and error to linear crossover properly, and they'll learn to stride backwards properly and maintain a good gap and a good angle. But in the teaching point of the forward crossover, I think that has to be made at some point and deliberately practiced before they do the drill. And then with the defenseman, your university defenseman skating backwards, I'm just saying teaching points that we gave Tim when he was playing was sit tall, ride a horse, pull your heels straight back. That was in backward racing. So the visual imagery, like Al Ramsey's forecheck, dog, fox, eagles, the visual imagery of that tactical skill, it resonated with me, and I think it was a simple way to get across a biomechanical, efficient idea that would contribute to it. So I just wanted to throw that in there. I love the drills. I can't believe the kids that young being able to do it. Kudos to you. Well done.
Well, the big thing, Wally, is like a lot of these players have never been exposed to any of this stuff. It's really interesting in the female game. If you build these fundamental building blocks, they'll use it right away because they're coach pleasers. They're not going to leave the session being like, that was crap, I'm going to go. Like they apply it almost immediately. And if you position as tools in their toolbox, where I really see the real buy-in is the physicality stuff, the initiating contact, the drive skating through the stick, shin pad to stick, heel to heel through the stick. I mean, once they get it, they put it into practice right away, and they can, their coaches are like, they are like a different person. So, because in the female game, the ability to initiate contact, but also the ability to defend in close quarters when someone is initiating contact, it's way behind. Way behind where it needs to be. I don't know about, Tim would probably be able to speak more intelligently about like at the Olympic level, how good they are at it. But in the minor hockey level, it's no one touches anyone. They just all accept the outside and skate into the corner. So if you do have some confidence with it, that is really the skill right now that I'm seeing is separating players the most, and maybe doesn't require as much high level skating. Like it can, they can get there a little more quickly. And it gives a benefit to the players who've, both sides, the larger players who weren't using the size effectively and the smaller players who were scared to initiate contact. It seems to be more of a universal skill, whereas those linear crossovers seem to really benefit the kids who are already a little bit more comfortable with their edge work.
Kim, I've got a question. You posted on Instagram or Facebook a one-on-one drill where you were near the boards, but in the middle of the ice, and two young players were making contact, sort of battling for a puck. I wonder if you could pull that video up, because it's the essence of keeping your balance, having your skates under you, and doing whatever game skating needs to be done to be successful in the drill. Do you remember that? You're muted, Kim.
Sorry, my twin has joined us. Say hi, Sasha. She's a very good skater, Wally. You'd be very impressed with her outside edges. Yeah. Much better skater than her mommy, but that's a pretty low bar. Wally, I have a lot of the drills. So are they stationary? Are they skating? What are they doing? Sorry, I don't mean to
There's a puck involved, and they bumped into each other battling for the puck. And at some point, I think they had to get the puck back to you, but it doesn't really matter. It's just that particular link. It was a wild watch to me, because it's a game-like competitive drill where the edge, where your center of gravity has to be under you so you don't fall down. You get comfortable with contact, and you can react and change directions according to what the game is. And that's the essence of a linear crossover, helping you get the balanced leg under your body. It takes a hell of a lot of balance to do that. You master the outside edge, you're more comfortable overall to skate the game the way it's played more often now. It's not a linear game now. It's becoming all directions for sure. So if you recall any of that, fine, let us know. But Sammy, I'm curious here, linear crossovers. What about goalies? Your sound is off, Sammy.
There we go. This has been fascinating because I play a lot of rec hockey now. So I'm trying to learn it from my perspective. Makes me want to go to Kim's camp and just learn it all. But yeah, it is irrelevant to goaltending. It doesn't have anything to do with it. But what I do find is that when I play women's rec hockey, if I could just skate backwards the entire game, I would dominate. I mean, I'm so strong at linear backwards skating as a goalie. But the game of women's rec doesn't really warrant that. But goalies tend to, what I find really easy, Tim, when you talk about being able to cover a lot of ice without crossing over, that is, that's what we do as goaltenders, that edge work. So that backwards, being able to cross over, having that balance, the drill that what would be called scissoring, very, very easy for a goaltender to master. But forwards crossovers is not as easy. So that's certainly something that balance going forwards is not easy for me to manipulate. But what I love about me learning the game at the same time that I am teaching it to younger athletes is that, as opposed to Kim, who just understands it, and she's really broken it down, I really have to manipulate my body to think, how could I do it and then teach it as well? I mean, you guys have all done that, but the forward skating is fascinating for me because it's, I take exactly what you guys say. Have a game later today. I'm for sure going to just warm up along the blue line doing those little crossovers. So thank you, Kim. Oh, Wally's on mute now.
Al, I'm curious about your thoughts, because you're at that level of working with young kids and experimenting with things. Any thoughts on what's been said?
Well, I had to drop there for a quick minute, Wally, for a work thing, but no, just in general with the crossovers, I think it's part of its habit, I think, right? Like the more we can get kids used to doing it, I mean, obviously there's building up the skill, but there's also ingraining it as a habit. Like when I get the puck, I'm not going to skate in a straight line with it. And I think that's where the big benefit of teaching them from when they're really young, even if they're not perfected the crossover yet, of getting into the idea of how to use the crossover, right? Like the drill work that Kim was showing about them, trying to beat the defender with the crossover. Like there's all kinds of little games that you can play and incorporate it to get them in that mindset of, I'm not just going to take the puck and go as fast as I can and try to go to the outside every time. I'm going to try and use this to beat the guy ahead of me. because I noticed, like, as you get older, it gets harder and harder to ingrain that kind of stuff, right? Like for like what you were saying, Sammy Joe. I mean, for me to go out and do that, like I'm a very straight line skater. Like if I play men's league, even though I know all this and I do all the linear crossovers and do all the demonstrations and stuff like that, if it's a men's league game, I'm still probably going to try and beat the guy to the outside and skate in a straight line, because that's the way I was taught, and that's the way that we that I did it, right? It's ingrained. So when I see my son, when he grabs the puck and goes out in the game, like he never, like very rarely skates in a straight line with it, unless he's like on a breakaway or something like that. He gets it and he just automatically starts to move, which I think is partly because he started doing it when he was 6, 7 years old.
Kim,
Wally, I found your drills.
okay.
Well, I have a couple, but I realized when we're talking about initiating contact, how important the outside edge is, right? Like if you can't lean on your outside edge and lean into a defender, if you're not comfortable on your outside edge, you're not going to initiate contact either. So we'll go back to screen share. And this one, I think I've had more likes on this than any other thing I've ever posted. And it's maybe one of the simplest drills I ever came up with. So these are all bantam and midget players. And you can see with them, especially the kid in the orange, you can tell she comes to all my camps, like how much she's leaning in here, right? And this is like such a foundational drill for us. They do it without the puck. They do it just dribbling the puck, right? So can they do this, right? And it took me a while to get to this progression, but they're so comfortable. They don't have to worry about leaning against someone else. They're leaning against the wall. It's not going to move. And then we add scanning and awareness. So my instructors are holding up fingers that they call out. This is even pretty challenging for most of our U15 and U18. And it really falls apart quickly with the younger players. They just don't have the ability to do 3 things at once, right? Legs, hands, eyes. Like they can do 1, they can do 2, but they can't do all 3. This is on turbo for you, Wally. This other one. So here's just leaning into your partner and dribbling, initiating contact. This is on fast forward. These kids aren't that fast. That's the drill I think you're talking about, where they spin off each other and then battle for position. That's a favorite. They like anything where the instructors hit them with the hitting pad, of course. So again, this is all, like, I would argue this is outside edge work. It is initiating contact, but if they can't be on their outside edge, they can't really do any of these drills. They're skating through the stick. There's some inside edge. Anyways, these kids aren't really that fast in real life, but initiating contact, because it's all pretty simple stuff, I guess. But this one is really where the rubber meets the road. We do this with the 5-year-olds, and they get good at it, and then they can do it right away. So, I like anything that has that instant transfer over. But then you add the partner in that they lean against. So when you saw the turbo version, they would lean against their partner and dribble the puck. And just getting comfortable with being like pants to pants with the lee side kids, stripes to stripes here. And that, like I said, it is foreign concept to our players. Like they're not comfortable. Like they have no idea what I'm talking about when we start it. So yeah, hopefully we're not taking too many penalties and changing the game, at least the way the girls.
Kim, we lost your sound.
Sorry, I was just turning off my sharing.
Kim, I have a question, and this is a question about coaching. What you've done in that video, it was deliberate practice. No decision making, just deliberate practice, and it was progressive. And you went without a puck, with a puck, then calling numbers, 3 things. And then when you went down the blue lines deliberately, you were still practicing. And that to me is an art of coaching in teaching, that coaches you're a skills expert, and not many of us could do what you're doing. I'm just curious about how much of what you do you think some of your coaches could pick up on, or do they rely on you to do all that deliberate practice and they do game-like practice?
I mean, I share all those. I walk our coaches through that. I have practice plans and drill videos for all of it. And I think I've said before, some of them have taught it without me being there, building the wall, initiating contact, building an escape route, blah, 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 blah. Like they've taught it without me, and I can see their players able to do it. I think there's the deliberate side of it, and there's the game application, right? So if you see that drill where they're driving around the circle, or we're pinning against the wall, right? Can we get the girls to the point where they can read where the pressure is, right? So the real magic of it is not, can you initiate contact, but when you initiate contact, can you identify where is that player and how do I manipulate the game now that I know where she is, right? So I posted one way back about, I think it was Melody Dow doing it against Finland, and she gets pinned against the wall, but you never get pinned fully from one side. And so she's able to spin off contact, right? And I think that's, once you get the deliberate down, infusing that idea of, okay, how are you using this contact to read the play, right? And that's what I always tell players. My demo for the players and the coaches is if I put my hand on a player and I close my eyes and I say, how do I know where this player is? I know where she is. Well, you're touching her, right? What a lot of players do is I call it like dance moves, right? They get within a stick length of the player and then they're doing this and doing crossover this way, and they don't actually touch the player. And they think they're doing a great job of protecting the puck, but they're actually making it really hard on themselves. If they just put their butt on the girl's hands or backed into the player, they wouldn't have to look over their shoulder at all. They might have to look for a stick blade. But you can feel the side the player is pushing you on, just go the other way. It's not rocket science, right? But that's where we would take that and immediately say, okay, this is why you're doing this. And they know that right when they're leaning into the wall. That first drill where they lean the wall, we're telling them this is so you can get information about where that player is, because she's not going to be like the wall pushing you evenly. You're going to have to spin one way or the other. That's hard for them to learn or to apply, but you can see them trying to do it. That's the hard part, right? Is that taking that from deliberate. The coaches can teach the deliberate if I give it to them. I spoon feed it to them. Can they then apply that in a more game-like drill? Yes. Can they then on the bench say to that player, okay, which side was she pinning you on, or where was the pressure? Why did you decide to turn left instead of right? I'm not sure that they're all comfortable doing that piece of it, right? Like that more Socratic asking the question. But the girls have the skill set to understand how to initiate contact and what that contact means for them to manipulate the game.
Kim, I want to share something that Dave King did years ago. Just 2 words. What you're teaching those kids, his teaching point was soft shoulder. You feel the pressure on one side, the other one shoulder doesn't have pressure. You turn away from pressure. And you got to feel it, not just see it. There's a point where in puck protection, you have to feel the person pressuring you to maintain it. And when the pressure isn't, that's the side you go to. So his teaching point was soft shoulder for the forward along the boards to turn the other way. I was doing an HP1 presentation in Saskatchewan and watching another coach from Phoenix, the skills coach, was doing an offensive presentation on play along the wall. And I thought he had never heard of the principle of soft shoulder. And that was the visual cue that Dave gave, just like toe cap square to maintain D side. It made a big difference in getting a picture, the understanding of feeling where they are. So I just wanted to throw that in. because not many coaches can do the deliberate teaching, I find. So if they learn to play small area competitive games, they'll get more reps. And without teaching, the kids will have fun and figure things out to the best of their ability. And getting your coaches to be able to teach some of the skills and provide feedback at timely moments is what's going to make it pay off more. So well done, Kim. I really enjoyed that. So Tim, do you have anything else to add? I've worked with you and you've done some teaching progression stuff that was amazing. And I remember the point shooting example where you dropped the stick and the shooter had to read that and change the shooting goal a little farther. But players have to progressively go through that at a learning stage for sure.
Yeah, the deliberate practice is pretty important when you're trying to learn a skill to develop some confidence to do it. So totally agree with that approach, to do some deliberate stuff and obviously then progress into, as Kim showed, progress into some sort of soft resistance, then sort of more game-like situations. A very effective way of doing it. Absolutely.
Wally, I'm going to share more drills.
Okay, go ahead.
We're having fun today. Okay, deliberate. So pinning on the wall and then skating through the hands. So that's just a combo of a couple drills that we would do. So this would be, just more to get lots of reps in, but eventually we'd pin more on one side than the other. So this player could read which side to spin to. And then there's a drill that just puts it into game application. So she pushes her off the wall. In this drill, she couldn't attack till I said go a second time. So she is using the soft shoulder here to turn away. Makes that D look pretty silly. They're about 4 years apart, these two. So they just start out of a pin. I do a lot more drills starting out of a pin. Then they do the dance moves. And then she's got to initiate contact at some point here to get around the player. So it's a nice drill. You could set up like 6 to 8 stations of it really, really easily. It's a kind of more of a hockey camp type of format. But you could see, I tell a lot of our coaches, right, you could easily have 2 stations of this at one end, working on one-on-ones while you're working on some kind of breakout or system stuff at the other end. And I think that's where I see a lot of like development opportunities missed, where you see too many kids standing around when everybody's trying to work on a system. And if you could have a drill like that running out of the other end to just get the reps in. And again, it would still be a little deliberate because we force them to start out of a pin. We force them to read a little bit, and the girls love those drills. Like, it's so outside their box. They just haven't done stuff like that quite a bit. And so once they really have fun with it, and it's, I don't know, it's been good for me. Performance-wise and business-wise, I think I'm the only one teaching it around these parts, so it seems to be pretty popular.
I'd like to share my screen. I've got a one-on-one mirror drill along the wall done with 2 brothers, both one's at Harvard now. The other one played for Team China, played captain of the Medicine Tiger for years. And I've always tried to emphasize learning defensive play, keeping the toe cap square. So I just like to show this. This is a drill done with 2 players. At this time, they were junior age players at the time they were doing it. And there's a lot of teaching points in there that I tried to reinforce at this level. So if anybody, feel free to critique it and question it, because I think there's a stage where these guys are trying to, they paid for time to get this instruction. Like when people come out to you, Kim, it's not a team. It's a few people, a number of people, and they're there with a purpose. So they've paid money to get this kind of help. So I just want to play with, more than anything, the screen share. And I'm figuring out how to do it. So,
well, Wally, just while you're doing that, I do teach all this stuff with teams. Like I'm a skills instructor for quite a few teams, and I'm actually running my first ever ringette practice tonight. I'm so excited. They want me to work on physicality. Actually, one of the dads brings his daughter, came to one of the physicality camps and said, "Hey, this is great. Can you do it with ringette?" I'm like, "Sure. You're gonna have to bring the rings, but I'll be there. I'm gonna be in Etobicoke tonight doing that."
I think we're all aware that what I'm doing here, I do with teams too. They're scattered around the arena in groups of 3, and the one player, and they're doing the same drill. It's a deliberate drill being repeated. So this drill, I just want to share the screen. I've clicked my share screen. Please let me know if it works, you guys.
Nothing so far.
There we go. I see half
Okay.
of them.
Okay. Here we go.
I've been to the top of Half Dome.
Can you see this?
Now we've got your screensaver picture on, Wally.
Right now, I've got this is why I want to make sure we can get it. I don't want my screensaver picture. I'm going to try the share screen again. It says it's sharing, so, and now I'm clicking up the YouTube posting of this drill. You still can't see it, eh?
Wally, maybe stop your share again and then restart it, because sometimes there's the option to share just a certain window or a certain part of your screen.
So shut my share off.
Shut your share off and then come back to it again and see if maybe you just clicked the wrong type of share.
Okay, I'm switching screen. No luck?
You're still sharing your screen. So completely stop sharing your screen.
Okay.
And then come back to it. There you go. Now you've completely stopped. Now try it again, and there might be an option for sharing a certain window on your screen.
Where would that be?
Usually it's when you start sharing your screen.
Okay, I've clicked.
Like just mouse over it, you mean, Sammy, before you click it? The screen share?
Yeah.
Oh, I won't take the time now. That's fine. I just thought it would be a good opportunity. I might call one of you to play with this just so I can learn how to share it, because the point is.
So I just want to make one comment before when I click screen share, it either asks me to share the desktop or share any of the windows that are open.
Okay.
So we can work on that later, but just so you know,
Yep.
there's like kind of.
I've got confirm stop sharing, and then it says switch screen or window, and I clicked on that.
So it would be like a different window. You're just sharing your desktop right now. But anyways, we can figure that out later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry to bother you all, but I think the point is there's some of us that are real comfortable with doing drills and letting doing small area games and let the games teach. And I think there's some of us that might go too far the other way. In other words, we just do deliberate drills most of the time, and that kind of work that Kim was doing, she can deliver it in a way where they're excited to do it. But I've found, and Tim, when we were working with novice teams and they went to 3 stations, the most boring station was the skill station where we did that deliberate practice. The kids couldn't, they didn't like it. And Ryan found it out because his son was one of the kids as an 8-year-old that had to rotate from the skill station to the game station. or to the compete station, which was all game-like. So that balance between the kids' interests, the coach's ability to keep them engaged and doing what they do, that's an art. And
Wally, I'll jump in on that because I think that's like FOMO, fear of missing out, right? Like if everybody was doing the skills together, you probably wouldn't have that. I like stations, but I like to run the same drill in all the stations at the same time for a couple of reasons. One, you don't have them looking at the 2-on-2 game going like, ooh, I really just want to be over there. And trust me, that's not just 8-year-olds. The junior players like, I want to be in the 2-on-2 game. I would want to be in the 2-on-2 game, not doing my outside edges. So we switched our camp format to everybody does the same drill. So we would have 2, 3, 6, 8 groups doing it. The nice thing about that too is it allows every instructor and every player to hear the same voice and hear the same instruction, right? So everybody's getting the same instruction from me, right? Here's how we're going to do it. Here are the key points. Then my instructors get to go with their smaller group, execute the same drill. You know, if I have the benefit of having lots of instructors, then I can float around and help. So to me, that's the most effective way to do it. I've been running my camps like that for 2 years. This past weekend, we ran our first ever first shift, which is like 6 sessions for underprivileged kids. They get full gear, all that kind of stuff through Hockey Canada. And they had stations. And I was like, I'll just run it like how Hockey Canada wants us to run it. I'll just run their stations. It was exhausting. I had to worry about this instructor not doing this one right, and this and this. And how do we time it? If everyone's doing the same drill at the same time, you can spend 3 minutes, you can spend 12 minutes. You can read the room and figure out, oh, like 50% of them are getting it, 30% of them are getting it. And it eliminates that, ooh, that drill looks really fun. I want to be over there. I'd rather be doing that. So it's worked really well for me. And with my audience doing it that way, my instructors feel a lot more empowered as well, which is really critical too, right? They don't feel like am I running the drill right? What should I say here?
Yeah.
And again, that would be in a camp format as opposed to a team format. But it definitely has been a format of doing it that's been way more successful for us.
I'm thinking about it more theoretically, Kim. You can run it. You can run it. Head coaches, what can they do? And that's my point here, is when you run it, coaches aren't developing. They're not learning to figure things out. They're getting to repeat what you do. It's sort of like coaching and telling them what to do. And that's what I'm worried about is average coaches being able to teach, and the 3 stations, when you say they're looking around, those coaches can run a compete drill and run a game drill, and they're not looking at the 3 stations. So there's no thinking involved, so to speak, or teaching involved in 2/3 of the ice. The only place where there's teaching, you want to have the best teaching coach with the most capacity to be able to regress and progress drills like you did, and then rotate them through. And that's just the practice model that I borrowed from a former player who coached and had great success with it. And I just wanted to throw that out there. And it's, I think our job here, we can all get better from this, boy, is what coaches are going to do moving forward. So see you, who's heading out? Tim?
Yeah, gotta go, guys. Thanks, Kim. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you.
Yeah.
See you next week.
Wally, can you stop your screen share so we can see the boxes big again? I like seeing everybody's face.
U Sports on today. Have to watch Saskatchewan and Margot Page. I was delighted to see Margot's Badgers got into that.
I know. I was supposed to be in PEI giving at the banquet speaking, and
really?
with COVID that all got canceled. So I was really sad this would have been a really exciting one.
Yeah, too
and
bad.
Julie Chu and Carolyn Willette out there too.
Yeah, well, good luck, Margot. Anyway, We'll see you.
All right, take care.
Yeah, Wally, I don't disagree with you about the station format, but the challenge of it is, like, if you're teaching a skill, well, again, it's the, if you're teaching linear crossovers and your game and your one-on-one drills relied on the skill part of the linear crossovers you were going to teach at the beginning, then how do you sequence the kids through? If, like, the kids who get the skill station first then have an advantage because they're doing it in the right sequence, right? Like, in terms of how you're going to apply,
Well,
how you're going to apply it.
here's what we do. The skill station, we start with the Eagles, the top kids, and then they move forward. And you can start with the weakest kids, but we don't worry about, oh, gee, are they accomplishing the purpose at the compete station or the game station? No, they're just playing. They're racing. So
But
we're
you
not
said
worried
you
about.
can't do a progression if you're starting at stage 3 and you haven't done stage 1 yet. And I
No,
totally agree.
No, the two stations, you don't worry about progression. They're set up. It's just a race, 1 versus 1, forwards, backwards, sideways, stop and start, with a puck, without a puck. And the third
Your
station,
screen is still blank, Wally.
oh,
Right, Wally, I don't disagree with you, right? Like, that's pretty low hanging fruit for a coach. But, like, if we could get coaches to do, like, I worked on setup moves, so weight shifts, right? Fake one way, go the other way, kind of like you were talking about earlier, and how kind of old school one-on-ones were taught, right? And so, you know, the perfect drill game race is British Bulldog, or I don't know. I think Tom just posted in the Facebook group, like, when you skate across the ice, you try not to get tagged, you try not to lose your puck. I call it British Bulldog. I don't know. So we work on the weight shift, then we do the version where you try not to get tagged. Then we work on it with a puck. Then you do the version where you're trying not to lose the puck, right? Then we do it when you have a coach defending the one-on-one. And then we do full ice British Bulldog. And that's a full hour, right? But the games apply to the moves. I get it's next generation stuff, Wally, but it's so much easier. And it's so much more effective to take the group through as a whole. And do I think those coaches can do it? I do think they can do it if we empower them with the information. I also think a lot of the coaches I work with, I don't come in every week. I give them the practice plan. They run the different practice plan, but they run it every Monday. If I come in on a Monday for the whole month, they're running the same practice plan I delivered every Monday. They don't change it. They might modify it slightly, right? But I think there's ways to do it better than, like, everything. There's a lot of things I see that are not good, and I agree your station and a lot of the station stuff is good. I'm just telling you, in terms of the learning and the focus and the progression you can achieve, taking them all through it together is better.
now, Kim, keep in mind, you're running it for the year. You're the paid full-time mentor / coach. We had 3 visitations where we were on the ice. Tim was one of them. We were mentoring at each station to make sure they ran it well safely. They ran it properly. Like in the races, we didn't want them to collide on turning. They had to turn both ways and win the race. They had to stop both ways and win the race. So we mentored them to continue with the program. It was 1 session. We had 2 visitations to see how they were doing during the year. And they had to hand out the curriculum you said. So that's the point. And Tom, I'm not sure what you mean about progressions, because
Well, what I mean is that if you're doing a progression, then stations isn't a good way to do it. If you're just doing skills, different skills at each station, it doesn't really matter.
no.
If you're doing a progression, if you start at progression 3 before you've done 1 and 2, you've kind of, it doesn't make any sense.
The only station that you would use progressions in is the skill station. The other ones are just games and races. So they're just playing games. And I think that's what most coaches are comfortable with doing. They try to do drills. They try to teach, and it takes some expertise. So, Al, have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. If you're doing a progression, it's really, really difficult to do with stations, right? Because again, like when you get groups going through different stations at different times, so we use them all the time. We do large group practices with 50, 40, 50 kids on the ice, and we'll do stations. But usually when we're doing that, it's not something where we're doing a progression per se. We might have a one-on-one station, some kind of a two-on-two station. Maybe there is a skill station, that's kind of tied in, but I use stations if we're doing a progression, but I do it with my team most of the time. So it's a smaller number of kids, and we'll do the stations just to cut the number of kids down. So I'll take one side of the ice with half the kids. The other coach will take the other half of the kids over to the other side of the ice, and we'll do a similar thing. But maybe we'll bring them together to go over some teaching points or something, and practice one part of the progression. And then if we want them to put it into practice, then we'll split them in half. And he'll take half, I take half. On separate sides of the ice. So,
when you do that, are you worried about what the other coach is doing? Because you're sort of the head honcho. And I find when I used to head coach, I really wanted to run everything and make sure it accomplished what I wanted. And when you split something like that, do you have any hesitation about doing that because there's a purpose that needs to be accomplished? Or I'm not hearing you, Al. And you're not muted, so. Sammy Joe?
I was just going to say that when I run my goalie schools and we have a whole day with them, I set the morning up. We don't have any pucks. And we have between 40 and 60 kids on the ice, goalies on the ice. And we have 4 different zones, linear zones in the rink. And I specifically teach the skills zone. So that's where we go over specific skills, how to place your body, where to place your body, so that I can kind of manipulate that part of it. And then the other skills would be like there's always a stick handling skill zone. And we rotate through all 4, but they, like Tom mentioned, that they don't build on each other. Within that 12-minute, we do some progressions, but there's no pucks. When we get to the afternoon and we have 2 hours of stations, I become a rover. So I have a goalie coach at every one with shooters, and I become a rover to, like your point, Wally, to ensure that it is kind of running like I want it to run, but also so I can just as much teach the instructor how to teach. Because I think that is also part of the camp, right? Is that these women are going to go on to then coach and permeate all of the GTA with that knowledge. So, and ask them questions. Lots of them are younger than me and are might be a PW goalie or university goalie and have learned from other people. So just as much of a chance for me to learn from them. But I can't always do that. I mean, as you guys know, it's sometimes you're at a loss for instructors. You get stuck with a station because somebody got sick that day. And what I find tough with rovering is you don't get to know each specific kid as well. When they come through your station, you really get to know them and teach. So both have benefits. And so I kind of set up but I was asking Kim on the side, like at my players camp in Winnipeg, where we have 160 girls, it's not skill level based, it's age based always. Because I want them to be off the ice with their peers. So I want it to be just as much of a chance for them to meet friends. They come from all over the province. And so it's not skill based. And so I struggle sometimes with divvying them up or teaching progressions, because it really has to be an individual focus. And so stations is the best way, I think, to teach them, because they just can't progress in the same way. So anyways, I was just getting Kim's opinion on that, and she told me she could do anything. So
on the ice, I can do anything. I'm not sure about anything else, but Yeah, I think your point is valid though, Sammy, and that's a lot. When I go in and work with a team, I need those coaches to hear the terms. I need them to understand what that weight shift does or what that linear crossover does, so that when I give them the practice plan, and I use like Mike, the coach them, I give them the practice plan we just did, and I say, use this again, and they do, right? But it's not just the drills, it's the key points, the key concepts. Kim, remember when Kim said, do the thing and the thing, right? And so it's giving the coaches confidence, and it's also giving the players the confidence in their coaches, because they're saying, like, they're using the same terminology.
The same language. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And there is, like I said, even the little U9 kids, there's such a huge variability. You know, on a U9A team, you have the kid who could play U11 AA and the kid who can barely skate. And they're all on the same team. So to your point, there's a huge discrepancy sometimes at different age groups in terms of top to bottom level skill. And that's where being able to rove around and give that higher level kid a little extra, you know, try it with your head up, try it, you know, with this or that, and then give the kid who's maybe a little further behind, you know, being able to pull her aside and focusing a little bit more on it. I think that's the art of it. But I don't know, for me, it's just that, and to Wally's point, I am that coach mentor, right? So part of it's teaching the kids and part of it's teaching the coaches so they can go do it without me. Like, I'm trying to coach myself out of a job a little bit.
Yeah.
And you know, it seems to work. And I see our coaches at least using the terminology and using the same drills. It's repetition, and the girls are getting better as a result. So, but I'm not going in and working on breakouts anymore or anything like that. Like, it's all these skills and concepts. When I run team practices, it's not like, let's work on the power play, guys.
Kim, what were the 3 words you used for teaching the game? You had 3 concepts that applied to team play.
Me? Oh, the 3 Ps?
Pardon?
I don't know, Wally. I got a lot of stuff.
Well,
Pace.
I thought it was
Yeah, you had 3 concepts for all of Lee's side.
Oh.
That you want every coach to have.
So so our teams play with pace, poise, and physicality. Right. So those are our 3 anchors for everything we do, and they do use those terms. And then I break down those on offense and defense. So, or with or without the puck. So what does pace look like when we have the little black thing, when we don't have the little black thing? What does poise look like? And the majority of our coaches, I would say, can get to that point of taking those 3 Ps and then having a key concept offensively and a key concept defensively that applies. So for like the key concept offensively for physicality would be own your space. So are we owning our space? Am I owning the space? Right. And then the key point defensively might be like, well, you know what? I'm going to find them. And that way I don't have to make stuff up on the fly. Although I'm good at that too. Let's see what we got here.
I really like those 3 terms, Kim.
Well, thank you. Let me pull up the actual PDF. I'll just share it. Like, it's like anything, you know, if you can't do it, who cares?
While you're pulling it out, Al, you can take those 3 words and go with them. Like, every adult has a vocabulary, and they can take the word pace and talk about it offensively and defensively and break it down. But at least it gives them the liberty to think in a way that there isn't different. It's not something deliberate. It's got a broadness to it that allows them space. Okay, Kim, go ahead.
I'm just giving away the farm here. This is it. This is the basics of the whole thing. So my expectation is that our coaches and our players can understand these key terms. So there's the 3 Ps and then these 6 other things. Like if you talk to a player, like, hey, on defense, we want to eliminate the other team's time. That's our example of pace. Like, are you eliminating the player's time or not? Are you giving her time or not? Like, I try to take it down to something that's super simple. And this is where we started. And then I got more specific, and maybe some of our coaches can do it at a little bit of a more granular level. But this gets us pretty far, to be honest, in terms of having a shared vocabulary within our organization. And I'm happy to share it because I don't think it really, like, again, they're just words. I don't think any coaches haven't thought of these things before. But to put them all in one place and put them all on one piece of paper, and I know quite a few of our coaches of our U13 and up have actually, printed them out, got them laminated for the kids, talk through them, refer back to them. So yeah, it's a bit of a nerdy way of doing it, right, Sammy? Like maybe I could have gotten to Stanford. I can't throw anything. They don't have a hockey scholarships, but yeah. So that's the way I approach it and teach it. And I have tons of video, of Poulin doing it or Jenner doing it or Nurse doing it or whoever, Kessel, all those girls. So they have a visual, and then my coaches have access to all those videos to then go and show their players. So they don't have to talk about it or try to teach it the way I do. There's videos of me teaching it that they can share with their players. So I'm not sure exactly how you quantify how well it's gone, other than seeing in the game application of it, if they're able to apply it, and then just hearing the players talk about it and use the terms is, I think, where I see we just have a conversation with them. If I jump on a bench or go to the game and try to pull it out of them, they know those the big three, and then they know the 6 other terms most of the time, which is good. Again, it's a little less for the U11 and U9 players, right? Like if we could just get them knowing the 3 Ps, I think we've won a lot there. But yeah, that's the way I'm approaching it now. Who knows how it'll change?
This is such a great graphic for trying to get everybody on the same page in terms of like connecting all the dots, right? Having everybody pulling in the same direction rather than everybody being on their own island. I love it.
Well, and the nice thing about it, Al, is, and you're in a similar boat to me, is like, I don't want to give them all the practice plans, and I don't want to say you have to run your forecheck like this or your power play has to look like this. But if we're going to play with poise, like, we're not dumping and chasing. We're not trapping, probably. Like, there's a certain thing that it implies, right? If we're going to play with physicality, we're not accepting the outside of the rink. We're not scared of contact, right? We're not also running people over, but like, it just allows them some freedom, but also some structure, so they can go to a skills coach that might not be me, because there's probably 15 different skills coaches everybody uses. And it empowers the coach to say, hey, like, I really need my players to work on physicality, because it's one of the 3 Ps. And also, like, they may be seeing in the game that it's not there. They could take that document and share it with a skills coach and say, these are the things that we need our players to understand. I know they've done that. And it also means if I'm a skills coach going in, I'm not like, oh, I just got to run Kim's stupid drill scan, right? But if I know I'm running a session on poise and the ability to hold on to the puck under pressure, then odds are most skills coaches are going to use some heel to heel. They're going to use some puck protection. They're going to use some things. They're going to use their own drills, but we're still getting the shared vocabulary in.
Yeah, and that's the real important thing, right? And there's some value in like giving people a little bit of leeway too. Like, even when they use our practice plans, like if I'm roving around, we got 2 or 3 coaches that are running the practice. There may be a guy that comes up with something that I hadn't thought of, and maybe there's a guy who's doing something that we don't like, but maybe there's somebody who has a great idea, right, for how we can build on it or make it a little bit better, or fix a challenge that I hadn't thought through whenever I was writing it down on paper. And you get that, right? If you leave it open enough that there's a little bit of room, but everybody's still working towards that same idea.
Well, and you don't want to be, I don't want to be like what Kim said, I have to do this, right? Like, I put myself back as a bench coach and say, like, could I pick every team in our association? Probably. Like, I'd probably get it 75% right. And I don't even know, like, some of the kids, like, could I give everyone all the practice plans? Sure. Would everyone hate me? Yes. Like, it's not, but I still need to have some influence and some impact. And some like the magic of this will happen. This is the first year we've done it. The magic will be in year 3 and year 5, when these players have heard these terms consistently from coach to coach, right? If you get me as your bench coach one year, but the next year you get a coach who just wants to work on systems all year, then there's no consistency. There's no continuity, right? Like that's the real magic about having those guiding principles, having that shared vocabulary, is now a kid that goes from B to A or goes from U11 to U13. Like she starts off the year and goes, oh, we're going to work on poise. She's like, I know what that is. We're going to work on physicality. We're going to build a wall. I know what that is, right? Confidence is king in girls hockey, or queen, I guess. Like they're already going to feel like they know what they're doing. They don't have to start from zero. That'll be the exciting part, to see how we, and it might evolve. Maybe the 3 Ps will change a little bit. But if we keep everyone on the same curriculum, I'm not a teacher, but I like the word curriculum. It is having an impact, and I think it will have a long-term impact as well.
Well,
Yeah, if I can interject, what I do is coaching the college team. My assistant coaches work, and I have the time to do a practice plan. So what I'll say is, I've got an ex-NHLer who also coached at University of Calgary with me for 6 years, coaching my D, and I'll say what I want to work on, and I'll put a drill or whatever. But I say, if you've got something you'd rather do, you do that. So you might have 15 minutes. So what I want them to do is the topic that I identify, and we also share a lot of ideas about what we need to work on. And so I make the plan, and then they can adapt it when they get there, if they want to.
I just wanted to see if Mike Benelli's still on, because he hasn't said anything here and he's been listening. So, Mike, are you available? Tom, I was going to interrupt earlier and mention that Tom's been at this longer than anybody here. He's been there and done that. And he's done it. He's worked with some of the best coaches in the world from different countries. And Tom, your practices in Jasper, and Sammy, this is related to what you and Kim do. You are running a hockey school. Kim is running a program. And I believe Tom's program is really appropriate for average coaches to pick up on. So, Tom, the amazing thing I find about your Jasper Hockey School, I've seen video, and you've had kids range in age and ability playing small area games all on the ice at the same time and accomplishing a purpose. And Kim, your 3 words, they're the purpose of what you're doing that day. What's the pace? To play faster, to play quicker, to think quicker. So, Tom, the game, not many people can start to take it from there, not many coaches, but those words go ahead. Tom, can you talk a bit about your approach using Jasper? Not just your team, because your assistants could head coach that team too, but you allow them to, in the framework of what you've asked them to do, to work within it. So, Tom, can you just talk a bit about your approach?
Sure. Well, what we do in Jasper, it's really isolated, right? Like they even have trouble getting other teams to travel there. They have to travel most of the time in their teams. So we get about between 25 and 30 kids, ranging from 5 years old to 16, girls and boys, at the same time on the ice together. And half the time is skating. And Gaston does the skating, like they have 15 ice times in 5 days. And half the time is with me. And what I do is I set up, we use little nets and, kind of ability groups at each net. So in that little, excuse me, a little ability group, they'll work on some skill and then play a game where they have to use a skill. Or maybe at the start, we'll do stick handling. Everybody does it at the same time. And the faster ones go first, of course, because, the little 5-year-olds, they take forever to get down the ice. And, but then they play games and tournaments and all this. in their at the small nets they have. Sometimes they're just one net games. Sometimes they're cross ice games. Sometime we'll have a game that 3 lines, but they play about a minute each. When the whistle goes, the next ability group comes out and plays. So it rotates between skills and games, and like I've got on the screen right now, I put a thing, Johanni's thing about games. This is a round robin tournament. And when I taught school, I had 60 kids in the gym at once. So I'd make them into 12 teams. I'd add, at a small gym, I'd make 3 badminton court sized gyms. I'd make 6 area there. I added a line down the middle of each one. So they're in 12 teams, and each team would practice the skills together. And then we'd do this round robin tournament, and then for so long, and then maybe after a 10-minute game, one player from each team came up, and the winner would circle their number on this thing. And I had tournament charts laminated on the walls so they could do that, and that's how we progressed through keeping everybody busy and not 30 kids sitting there while 30 kids played. So it's all about using space and putting people in groups that they can work together. And sometimes I have the older kids teach the younger kids, so they're the coaches. That's basically the idea I use in Jasper.
I have a question, Tom, about when you were running them in your classroom and you had them learning the skill at the same time. Obviously, in a gym, there's very different levels of skill. So in that group of, say they're in a group of 10, and they're at various different levels within that group, how are you teaching that?
Well, like in a phys ed class, it might be all grade 7s, right?
Yeah, they're all the same age, but they're not all the same skill.
Yeah, and there's girls and boys. So I would try to put them in, more or less even teams so that they could peer coach each other, help each other out. And, they would work in those, with
And
that
how
group,
did you
maybe
get
5
the,
kids.
I never worry about the kids that are really good at a skill, but how did you get the sort of buy-in or the participation from the lower skilled athlete?
Well, they're doing the drills, and the better kids are helping the weaker kids. And then when I have games, there might be, if they're playing basketball at 6 different nets, maybe everybody has to touch the ball, or before you can score a second time, everybody in your team has to score, so that the other players,
I love that. That's my biggest issue with my hockey school, because I have kids from all over the province, and if you live in a First Nation anywhere in this country, you can come to my camp for free. So we have a lot of First Nations kids that are newer to the game.
Yeah.
And my biggest concern is at times for the lower skilled athlete, but at the concession at times of the higher skilled athlete. So how you kind of manage those within the same grouping, because I want them to be with their peers. I always want to keep the age groups together.
Yeah. Well, what I would do then is the age groups, like in hockey, I would probably put the better 10-year-olds together, and then the weaker ones, so that they can compete.
And how do you verbally? How do you say that? You're not as good. You're going to go over here. How do you actually say that?
I don't tell them they're not as good. I just say, name the group that's over there, but that.
Like, I'm thinking of a 14-year-old girl. How do you do that with a 14-year-old girl and not damage their psyche, or maybe not want them to, stay with the game?
So Sammy Joe, with our groups on that, like We get a lot of groups coming through. Like we got one that just started right for the Bruins Academy thing, and there's like 50 girls. It's a girls learn. It's awesome. But I go around with helmet stickers, and they don't even really see necessarily what helmet sticker they're getting, or they don't really recognize what the significance is. So, we kind of put everybody out there. I kind of have an eye on who might belong in which group, and then I'll put helmet stickers on. And it's not like
I think that's awesome until the girls specifically are about 11 or 12.
Yeah, and
so what do you do from 12 to 17? And Tom coached a lot of gym class that, and Al, I'm sure you know what that's like, having girls like that. I guess I just don't want somebody to be turned off the game because they feel like they're in a lower group. I just want to get the verbiage right, I guess. So.
Well, I mix in the games. I do a lot of mixing, but I make rules that they have to, like the rules I said. Everybody has to touch the puck, or that one about you can't score the next goal until everybody scores. I found that this guy in the States was doing this, and I started doing that. And even our old man's hockey, we had like Danny Heatley started playing with us when he was 14. His dad always played. And then when he's 15, he could go through all of us anytime he wanted. So we had a rule that said, Danny, you can't score until you've had 2 assists. And so we did that with all because guys' kids would start playing with us. And we'd make that kind of rule with them. So you kind of figure out ways that, people have to get involved. Otherwise, the best player just goes through.
I love that. Yeah, that's good. And Al, I do use the, we call them blocker stickers because at goalie camp, that's what we use. But I even before they get to camp, I put them in levels because I can tell where they've played and stuff. And then they don't really know. They just kind of the instructor knows. So it might say on their name tag, there might be an extra dot or 2 dots or whatever. They never really question that. But I do worry about the high dropout rate of females in sport in general. So I'm just very cognizant how others maintain that.
Yeah, it's always like I remember once in Jasper, I had one kid that way better than everybody else, like his age group. But the teams were uneven. Like there was only 5 players over there. They needed 1 more player. And the better 10-year-olds, I think I said, well, one of you guys go play with those guys so they have 3-on-3. So one kid went over. His dad was so mad because he thought that I was basically putting his kid in that I didn't think he was a very good player.
Right.
So you always have those kind of issues.
And I think in women's hockey, we deal less with the parent that is thinking that, and more internally the girl thinking that, so providing enough leadership opportunities for them too. And I love the idea of the quote unquote better kid helping the kid that's coming through. That often works really well at my camp with the older age group, the 12 to 17-year-olds, where you kind of pair them off a little bit, because then off the ice too, generally the kid that's newer to the game still has some quite good athletic skills and can teach other things off the ice, so they all have things they're good at and not as strong at. So I do like that.
Yeah, it's always a balancing act, right? And everybody.
Well, we were just talking about how to teach to the lesser skilled athlete, especially for me specifically, sort of those girls between 12 and 17. How do you the nomenclature around better skilled, weaker skilled? How do you separate them on the ice? Like physically, what do you say, or how do you do it? And so Al had some good sticker things, and Tom just integrated more.
Yeah. The biggest problem in minor hockey, every team, there's skill discrepancy. And the idea of developing them and placing them properly on number one, the team itself, as opposed to selecting, like if you have 10 teams in a division at the U10 level, they have to be properly placed. And parents don't accept where they're placed. They all want to be on the A team. So when they come to your school, the ability to adapt, to me, the primary reason they're playing the sport in the first place is to develop life skills. And it doesn't matter if you were stronger or weaker kids. I might use the best kids to help teach, to peer teach somebody that's close to their level or not. But they have to respect one another and realize they're all going to develop over time, and it's not a race. And I think the good part of doing it the way you do, Sammy, oh yeah, you're going to have some kids not get there, and everybody wants to be with the best kids. They think it's going to make them better. And that's typically what goes on in minor hockey. They want more ice time, and they only want to play with the best players. So
I think, Wally, on that note, I think it is a little different in girls hockey in that it's not necessarily that they want to be with the better kids. It's that they are now put in a silo of the weaker kids, and they think maybe hockey's just not my thing.
Yeah.
Especially at that teenage level, when you see a lot of dropout from the game, that's where I worry. And so it is less about, I'm not dealing as much about parents thinking my kid should be in this level or whatever. It's more that internalization of maybe the negative nomenclature or verbiage. So I like what Tom and Al do, and that certainly helps. But yeah, I try to do a lot of those things. It's nice to get other people's perspective on how they do that.
Sammy, I don't know if this helps, but like terminology that I've used with the kids is like, rather than stronger, weaker, better, weaker, whatever, it's like those who are a little, maybe you're a little farther along because you practice a little bit more than somebody else. And it's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just maybe some of you are a little farther along than others, and maybe you can help some of the
I like that. That's good.
You know what I mean? So we've used that terminology, and they seem to understand that. But I love what Tom was saying about having balance, right? Because there's a time when you want the kids that are like with like, and there's a time when there's value for the younger kids to be with the older kids, or the better kids to be with the weaker kids, and to be able to put some responsibility on them to help each other out, or to see what it looks like. What does good look like? You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's a lot about like it's I like what Tom was saying about it being a balancing act, because it really is. We've done that at a lot of the PEP clinics. We've done it with mixed groups, and it can get a little interesting, right? But it's all individual skill. But when it's more of a competitive thing, then we tend to separate them more, like with like.
Yeah, and even in the competitive things, you can have like
I like those rules.
Make have a King's Court tournament and mix the teams up, but have a rule that everybody has to score, or you have to get. Probably that's the one if it's really mixed, and then at the end of the game, they all rotate. The winners go one way and the losers go one way, and
yeah,
and they're all having fun, but. Then the little kid has to jump up to get open, because if he's got to score, then he's got to get open, and then the better guy's got to get their head up and look around a bit. So it's a way to do a few things.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you. I have to run, but thank you for that. That's been helpful.
That's great, Sammy.
Yeah. Tom, probably the funnest thing that we do all year is a mixed level tournament. We do a 3-on-3 thing at Christmas time. And we just it's just whoever signs up. So you get kids on, you get the best kid on the one team who might be on the lowest kid on the 6th team. And they're placed on the same team together. And like that's the funnest weekend of the whole season, when all the kids are there and everybody's just playing. They're just being kids. And, and we play around them too, right? Like we'll skate around, and, maybe if a team is dominating, we'll take, one of the coaches will go and move the net on the goalie so that somebody will have a chance to score. Or like we had we took some kids' sticks away and gave them pool noodles. You know, some of the best kids. We gave the kid a lacrosse stick, or you know, just fun stuff, right? Just to mess around. And but I'll tell you, like that weekend when they were all together, that is the funnest weekend of the whole year, I think. And a lot of the kids have said that too.
That's a good idea. And what I'll do is I'll have maybe one game I'll have a ring, and the other a tennis ball, another a racket ball, you know, another one like maybe a blue puck or something like this. And they, of course, all those things work on different kind of skills, right?
Yep.
And they love that. You have and then just rotate the groups so that they get each one of those, you know, different kind of things that they have to handle. And yeah, the games and tournaments are always great.
I think the funniest thing that happened at that tournament, we had one kid he's one of the best players, right? And he was scoring a bunch of goals. So we gave him a lacrosse stick. It turned out he was better with the lacrosse stick than he was with the hockey stick. So, so we had to take that away real quick. But
I just had a brainwave. You've probably done it, but handicapping the better player to make them switch hands.
Yeah.
Play wrong-handed, and Tom, you know, Al, Tom's done some amazing things when he was teaching junior high school, and the numbers were really high, but the participation part and the activity part is just amazing. So, Tom, what would be the max number you've had to deal with being in charge of in a gym, and what did you do to handle?
I'd get 2 classes, right? So 2 classes would come, and they'd probably be between 24 and 32 or something like this. And that, you know, and the last thing you want with junior high kids is sitting there with nothing to do, because the end result isn't going to be good, right? So I put them into the groups, usually in 12 teams, because our gyms usually have 6 basketball courts, and I modified the gym for volleyball so that and it wasn't that big of a gym. Every badminton court was made into 2 courts. So I had 6, 6 courts like that. Plus on the stage, I had a fitness circuit. So sometimes one class, or else the boys would be doing weight training and you know, fitness things, and I'd get music prepared, and a break every I think 90 seconds for 30 seconds that they switch stations and kind of run itself. And while there's tournament going on below and all those kind of things, just to avoid anybody sitting out ever. And the kids loved it. They came, and I had balls and everything out when they walked in the gym. They didn't go and. I was so sad when I went back to my school the next year to grab something, and the new teacher had them all sitting in squads waiting for class to start. I mean, who's going to hurry up and change to do that? So you know, just trying to figure out ways to keep people busy and to teach them something and to get fit. And we ran every single class and did exercises as well. And every kid in the school could go at least 30 minutes without stopping, you know, like running. So it was just kind of the kids liked the routine. And if kids came and said they didn't bring their stuff, I would get the grade 9s and say, okay, do you want that? Do you want your gym wear in grade 10? And they said, no, I don't want to wear my gym. I said, do you want to donate it to me? And they say, sure. And I'd wash it and put it in a bag. And if someone came and said, well, Mr. Malloy, I didn't bring my stuff today, I'd say, well, in the bag there's stuff. And all of a sudden they magically say, oh, well, maybe it's in my locker. And so there was never anybody not changed. Because you can't go to math class and say, I don't feel like doing math today. I'm just going to sit here and talk to my friend. Okay, teacher. And the teacher say, what? So all those kind of things, they certainly work for me. And the feedback I got from kids is they really liked it.
Yeah. Al, I wanted to compliment you. I've shared your story with the Dean Seymour and Mike Barra at Hockey Canada in charge of coach certification. And I said, if you want to learn forecheck, use the dog, fox, eagle. And they were absolutely amazed by the simplicity of the visualization. And it's the same thing with Kim's use of pace, poise, and physicality. It's not systems of play as a group, but it is. You have to play within their structure, whatever that is. And it's just brilliant. I think we've complicated things by structuring things too much. That's my opinion. And what's yours, Al? Having grown up and playing, and now you're boys playing, and you're a part of a leadership group in your area trying to affect the game.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that what Kim was sharing there earlier with those three key principles, I think that that's pretty critical for us in terms of our next step. Like we've come a long way in terms of trying to connect coaches and doing mission statement exercises, in terms of doing multi-team practices with all the coaches on the ice, so that there's some mentorship that's happening and we're working off a shared plan and that kind of thing. You know, we talked to Mike Weaver, and we're looking at some options for how we manage practice plans across the association for next year. But the thing that Kim shared a few minutes ago, and I took a screenshot of it there with the 3 Ps, I think that's really, really good, because that is the problem, right? Like, you know, if I go out and I'm doing dog, fox, eagle, okay, that's great. Well, what happens if the guy who's coaching the 3 team is, every time the kids pick up the puck, like a defenseman picks up the puck in their own end, they got to rifle it up the boards, right? Because that's what happens. Because each coach is kind of like, while they're practicing together, they're still in the games, they're still teaching different things, right? And especially at my club association, we're completely on an island, you know, completely on an island. And what I teach to my 2012 team is different than what the other guy who's coaching the other 2012 team is teaching his team. So how do you connect those dots so that when kids go from one team to the next, or they age up a group to the next coach, so that he can pick up where the last guy left off? And I think what Kim did there is perfect. So I think, you know, from my perspective, we're going to try and figure out something analogous there for our association, because that's the kind of thing that we've been talking about as our next step. The dog, fox, eagle thing, and making things simple. Like, I don't know. The game is great because it's so simple, but it's so complicated at the same time, right? So the more that we can do to kind of break it down and, you know, help the kids think about it in a way that they understand, I think it's the better, whether it's dog, fox, eagle, or some other way of looking at it. But trying to teach you know, I think for the most part, we've gotten guys away from trying to teach like you know, you're the right winger, so you go stand here and you own this part of the ice. I think we've gotten away from that in most cases, but. You're muted, Wally.
Kim's 3 words give you a common language and synergy, because it's across the entire association.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think people can buy. But when you get into structures and systems, and those things aren't that important when you get the picture, but there's more overlap and interchange in the game, then we take away from that ability to, by overcoaching and overstructuring. And I think that's a big change in the way we're coaching today. And that's where, when Daryl comes on, I think everything he's doing is, the student is the teacher, because they're playing and thinking, and we've got to know what they're thinking and what decisions they're making and why, and we'll be better coaches in the process. So all good.
Wally, excuse me. Like, we got to be careful though about that, because playing the old timer, we're going to the Alberta games in a bit, our team, and we have no structure. So nobody covers the point, everybody's down low, or everybody goes to the point, you know, like we have no we don't have a vision, a picture of where, like a man on box behind, and I know that Roy Kelly used to teach that center covers the puck side point and the wingers go in their corners.
Yeah.
That's a lot of Calgary people do that still.
Yeah.
And then there's the way that we basically teach a man on box behind, whether it's the wings on the point or 1, 2, 3, 5. But there's got to be some discussion on agreement on how we're going to actually do it. And there has to be a forward on the boards on the D side. And there has to be, there has to be some structure to the game, but it doesn't have to be left wing, left right, and guys my age, they learn left wing, right wing, center, so we got to make sure that whether it's shapes or ideas like man on box behind or something, there has to be something that's kind of the overall guiding principle of a team. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and we incorporate that, Tom. Like when I'm talking dog box eagle, like then there's habits, that go along, and we do have the shapes discussion too. We spend a lot of time watching video with the kids. Like just after practice, we pick out a couple of videos to watch every Tuesday night, kind of deal, to get an idea of what it looks like. But it is a struggle because, again, like the kids they're making decisions and they're making mistakes, and sometimes they're out of position and that kind of thing. So it's a continuous process from what I found, and it's really tough to I found like one of the areas where we struggled was at the earlier in the year. We were really, really, really good at defending the rush going forward, right? Coming out and taking the puck away and keeping them to the sides and when we're going forward, but we didn't defend the rush when we're backing up very well. So then we worked on that for a while, and it's almost like they took it a little bit too far. You know what I mean? And then we stopped being really aggressive with trying to take the puck away at the blue line or in the neutral zone kind of thing. So it's always like a give and take. But I do agree, like you can't have no structure at all. And even with the 9-year-olds trying to talk to them about dog box eagle, like we still have concepts of like where we want people, and we have ideas of in language that we're trying to use so that it's not like just every man for himself out there, right?
Daryl uses geometry, the concepts, and then triangles and boxes.
But Tom, does that make what are your thoughts on that?
It, to me, is the key. Tom, I've shared this story before. Watching the UFC women at tryout scrimmages, they had players on the bench coaching, and all the new prospects were wannabes were scrimmaging. Their forecheck was better and D-zone coverage was better. And I told Tim this, than it's going to be when you start coaching them. So before I think at that age, with your guys have played enough hockey, who knows how hard they're going to work, whether they should respond or not, or will they respond to structure? Do you have a coach on your old timers team?
No. And if you try to coach, everybody gets bugged with you.
Yeah.
No, well, that like Al, you're talking about that. I think Johanna used to say you start with the positions. So they have this view of, you start with it and then you get to the point of saying, this is your home position. So if I'm a left winger, I can't be playing center all the time and in between the dots all the time, right? But I start there. But if someone comes into my lane, I go into their lane, and you get the idea of the 3 lanes and 3, the depths and, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you want to attack with a middle drive, and you want to come back in the slot and defend from the net out, and you want to man on box behind. But I think you have to start with positions. Otherwise, I don't know how the kids ever get a view of how the game can be played.
Al, you've made that transition. Al?
We kind of went the opposite way. We kind of started with a few shapes and then added a little bit more refinement to it.
When you're half ice hockey, did you have to line up for face-offs?
Yeah, so we lined up 3 in the front, 1 in the back.
Did you call them centers and wingers?
Nope. 3 in the
Okay.
front, 1 in the back.
Okay. And then from there it was dog, fox, eagle.
Yeah. And then with the, now with the 5-on-5, now we've got 3 forwards that go out in 2D. So they do have that home position that you're talking about, Tom.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, so the D, like let's say we're in their zone, right? The D is the eagle, so they're up high, but their job is to guard the line, to swoop in if there's an opportunity for a loose puck, on the slot kind of thing. They're, like we have concepts that they're still following up there, and it's just that if they go in, then somebody else is going to come up and cover off for them. So
How comfortable are they with the interchange?
I could send you some videos, Wally.
Okay.
It's pretty automatic.
It's automatic, eh? That's my point. At higher levels, like the video that Daryl's been providing of Ella, she's offensively really aggressive as a defender, and she's able to take calculated risks in terms of her skating. And if everybody was at that ability level and thought freely and openly, and they all interchange, I think we've got a game that's almost impossible to defend. So I don't know.
Well, you watch the Flames play now, and that's what they do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's really good having you guys on. Tom, we'll be able to leave my place at 8 a.m. tomorrow to drive to Pinoca, Alberta to watch Jordan's midget AA girl.
Not tomorrow.
Oh yeah, Saturday, sorry.
Yeah, and I'm going to the Flames game at night, so we gotta be back. They
Okay.
play at 8 against the Oilers. I don't want to miss that game.
Okay, well, it's a 10:30 in the morning game on Saturday.
Yeah.
So it should
Be
be
done early enough
okay.
for sure. Pinoca's
So
about 2.5 hours.
Yeah. Come to the front of the house. And Al, are you going to PEI this summer?
Yeah, that's the plan. So it is.
Do you have home there, or do you rent a place?
We usually stay at my folks.
Yeah.
So they get a big camper. So we usually get the fifth wheel out in the back field kind of thing. And then we go to a couple of campgrounds whenever we go. We're going to go to Allen's hockey school there for a week there with my son. So there's a campground fairly close by that we stay at. But most of the time we just kind of camp it's a backyard camp.
Yeah. Listen, I talked to Al. You know how deliberate Al is on forward stride and full squat, balancing on all 4 edges. And well, I talked to him about the crossover before you do that, and turning before you do that. And I think watching Ella skate, it paid off for her. So she seems to skate as well as any of El's graduates, so including Crosby. So she's one of the best gliders I've ever seen. She seems to be accelerating when she's gliding all the time, and they've talked about that with Paul Coffey and different players. So I'm just wondering how much outside edge mastery precedes striding, Something to work on anyway. Well, look, we'll see you Saturday morning, Tom. Al, thanks for coming on. Great session. I got something to do for a couple of days here.
All right. Thanks, Wally.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Wally. Thanks, Al.
Bye.
Okay. Really good. Take care.